Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Echo Live. My name is Paulette, and today we're going to be talking about something really super cool. Today, we're going to be talking about the Ring of Fire. You might have heard about something that's really cool that's happening tomorrow morning. We're actually going to be able to see a solar eclipse from here in Michigan. So we're getting excited about this solar eclipse. And today we'll be talking a little bit about why this solar eclipse is happening, why we call it a ring of fire instead of a different type of eclipse, and how to view the eclipse safely if you are here in the state of Michigan with us, or maybe even a little bit further east or north. Like all of our programs, go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat feature today. That is how we will communicate throughout our program. So go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat feature. Tell us where you are viewing from. Some of our viewers that I know join us from California and Texas might not be able to see this lunar or this solar eclipse like we can here in Michigan, but I'll tell you a different way to be able to see this solar eclipse, even if you're not within the path of the eclipse. So like I said, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat feature. We're happy to have Evan from Texas here. And like I said, some of our friends from California that reach us as well. So like I said, tomorrow morning, we're going to have something really exciting happening. We are going to have a solar eclipse from here in Michigan. Now, that solar eclipse is different than some of the other solar eclipses that we've seen in more recent years. This solar eclipse is going to be something that we call an annular eclipse. And so this solar eclipse is going to look like a ring of fire. So it's going to be just a little bit of the sun that's covered. Now, a total solar eclipse means that the entire sun is covered. But an annular solar eclipse means that we're still able to see the outside of it right here. So we're going to be able to see part of that annular solar eclipse here in Michigan. You'll also be able to see it in other parts of the United States. If you look over here on our East Coast, our friends in New York and Philadelphia are going to get a good view of that solar eclipse. If any of our friends are joining us from Sault Ste. Marie, you're going to get a fantastic view as well. Here in the Upper Peninsula, you'll get a great view. But most of our friends that will be able to see the full annular solar eclipse are actually up here in Ontario, Canada. So the eclipse will be happening here in Detroit at sunrise. So when I'm going to be waking up tomorrow morning at about 5:30, going outside, watching the sun rise, and we'll be able to see the sun eclipsed as it rises. But we're only going to see a partial eclipse from here in Detroit. Like I said, in northern Michigan, you'll be able to see a much better view, but really Ontario and northern Ontario are going to have the best view of that solar eclipse. So why does this eclipse happen? And why does this eclipse have that special name? Why do we call it an annular eclipse versus the total eclipse? Why do those happen? So, like a lot of times here on our Echo program, I'm going to go ahead and use our sun, which we have right here. Now, we see different types of eclipses when the sun, the moon, and the earth, so pretend you guys are the earth at home, line up just right so that the moon either blocks the light from the sun or the shadow of the earth falls on our moon. So when the shadow of the earth falls on our moon, we have our lunar eclipse. And when the shadow of, or when the moon blocks the light from the sun, that is our solar eclipse. Now, The annular solar eclipse versus the total solar eclipse are because the Earth and the Moon don't have circular orbits. Their orbits are elongated and are actually elliptical. So sometimes the Moon is closer to us and sometimes it's further away. When it's closer to us, we call that perigee, or near Earth. You might have heard of the supermoon. Well, the supermoon happens when the Moon is at perigee, closer to the Earth. There's also apogee, when the Moon is further away from the Earth. Because of that elliptical orbit, it's not always going to be the same distance away from us. So apogee is when the Moon is just a little bit further away. And when that happens, less of the sun's light is blocked out. So we have right here our sun, and it is a pretty bright sun for you guys at home. And if our Moon comes in and blocks the light from the sun, right here, we have a total eclipse because you're not able to see the light coming from the sun anymore. But you'll notice that if we get a little bit further away, we're going to actually be able to see some of that light coming through. Because of that, the Moon appears smaller in our sky and blocks less of the sunlight. So we have that beautiful ring of fire. What we're going to see here in Michigan, though, is only a partial eclipse. We're only going to see part of that, and you were able to see that in our image. So we have some friends joining us from Southeast Michigan. Welcome. So you'll be able to see this tomorrow morning as well. We are super excited. I'm actually going to be on the roof of the Science Center tomorrow morning, super early, so that I can take a look with a telescope and be able to share those images with you guys at home as well. So here in Michigan, we're only going to see sort of that partial solar eclipse. We're not going to be able to see the whole thing. And you can see that here, we'll be able to see just sort of a little bit of it. Part of that is because the maximum of the solar eclipse is actually before the sun rises. So because of where we're located on the Earth, we're not actually going to be able to see maximum eclipse because it's happening before sunrise. So it'll be eclipsed as the sun rises. But we all know you're never ever supposed to stare directly at the sun, right? So how do we take a look at this eclipse, especially because it's only a partial eclipse? And annular eclipses, you're never ever able to look at because there's still a lot of sunlight. Well, we take a look at eclipses a couple of different ways. Here at the Michigan Science Center, we have telescopes. So right here, we have a telescope with a solar viewer on it, and you can use that to take a look at the sun. Right here, we have something called a sun spotter. So a sun spotter will take the light from the sun, go through a couple of different lenses, and project it on the bottom. And that's what you're seeing right here. You can see the projection of the sun. But not everybody has these fancy telescopes. And you know what? That's okay, because you can still take a look at a solar eclipse safely without these fancy things. If anyone has any leftover eclipse glasses from the 2017 solar eclipse, that's actually where these images came from, you can still use those solar eclipse glasses. But before you use them to take a look at the sun, make sure that they're still 100% intact. There aren't any pinholes on the surface because we don't want anybody to ruin their vision. If you have level 14 welder's glass, you can also use that to view the sun and view a solar eclipse. But there's an easier way to view the solar eclipse. And it's not looking directly at it, but it is still a really neat way. You can use a pinhole camera or a pinhole viewer. So you can see there's a piece of cardstock right here with a hole in it, and it is actually projecting the image from the sun. And you can make one of these at home. All you need is a piece of cardstock. This is just a piece of cardstock that I had laying around, and a pin. So make sure to ask a grown-up for help before you do this. But I'm going to use my handy dandy little NASA pin here, and I'm going to go ahead and poke a hole in my piece of paper. So once you have that hole in the piece of paper, I'm making it just a little bit bigger so that you can see it a little bit better. You can use this as a pinhole projector. So let's zoom on in there. You can see our little pinhole made right there. You hold the piece of paper up, and you can take the light from the sun, and the light from the sun will shine on the top of the piece of paper. What you'll see underneath the piece of paper is you'll actually see an image of the sun. So the way that these work is similar to how a camera works. It takes an image through an aperture, and you're able to see the image on the other side. If you don't have a piece of paper or cardstock at home, you can use some household items. For example, back in 2017, I brought a colander to the solar eclipse. You can see the colander right there, and check that out. Do you see those little holes? Each of those are crescent suns. So we were able to see the partial solar eclipse through a household item like a colander, and it looks pretty cool. It made for some really awesome photos. You can see some folks taking pictures of that. You can also see some folks using our pinhole projectors that we made that day. So pinhole projectors are a really great way to take a look at the sun in a safe way. This works on any normal day, but most of the time you're just going to see the sphere of the sun. With the solar eclipse that's happening, you're going to see the little eclipsed suns in the pinholes. So I encourage everybody who is in our area to wake up early and try and take a look at our solar eclipse, of course, safely with our pinhole projector. And if you aren't in our area, there are some other things that you can do. So if you check out the NASA website, you'll be able to see a live feed of most of the solar eclipses that happen. We also will be tomorrow morning on our Instagram story going through exactly what I'm doing. So I'll be setting up the telescope, and we'll be able to hopefully see the telescope. We'll hopefully be able to see the solar eclipse through that telescope as well. So we'll be doing a Instagram story, so you're able to check that out tomorrow as well for those of you that follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And our friend Evan from Texas, you still have those glasses. That is a great thing that you still have those glasses, because here in the United States, we're going to be treated to another couple of solar eclipses. So the next annular eclipse that's going to be visible from here in the United States is going to be October 2023. So that one is going to be an annular solar eclipse. And those eclipse glasses will come in really handy because you won't have the ability to stare directly at it like you do with a total solar eclipse. Now, we also have a total solar eclipse that's coming through in April of 2024. So Evan in Texas, I might come visit you in 2024 because you guys will be right through that line of totality. So if you're in the area, definitely check out this solar eclipse. It is going to be, it's supposed to be clear tomorrow morning. So I'm hoping that we'll get a really good view, or you'll just see me on the roof just waiting for the clouds to clear. It will be happening, like I said, very early in the morning. So it'll be happening at 5:55 as the sun is rising. So if you're an early riser like me, definitely get that out there and take a look. And I'm sure there will be lots of images out there on the internet after the annular eclipse. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today for our episode of Echo Live. And like I said, I hope you are able to at least see some images on the internet after our annular eclipse tomorrow. And of course, this program is brought to you by Ford and Denso. If you have any questions, go ahead and type those questions into the chat. We love hearing from you guys every single week. And of course, we're going to have our next episode next week. So join us at 2:30 Eastern Time next week on our Facebook and our YouTube pages. So not seeing any questions coming in. Susan mentioned that someone happened to be outside with a colander. Like I said, I like the colander method. I think it's really cool because it's something that naturally happens. You could also look underneath the trees because of all the holes in the trees, in the leaves. You'll actually see the solar eclipse through those as well. So really fantastic things to take a look at. And I love it when it happens in real life. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. We hope to see you next time.